Welcome to In Her Voice, a podcast created for women who listen to and live by their deepest wisdom, their inner voice. This was made for you, the woman who feels pulled to more, to lead, to create, to dream, and to be a world changer. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am an inner voice coach. Join me here each week as we explore what it means to reach for your inspired potential, all while honoring your worthiness each and every day. Well, hello there. It's nice to have you here on In Her Voice today. This is Kelly, and today we are talking about courage. And I have a lovely guest on, Terry Sidford, here to share what courage is, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and how to have more of it in your life and why that's important, all of the things. And I love that we're talking about this at this time of year, because this is the time of year, I think, when people are starting to think about what's next. You know, the New Year's coming up. It's time. It's time to decide what your life is going to look like next year. Like next year at this time, what do you want your life to look like? Do you want things to be different? Do you want there to be changes? Do you want things to be the same? Because that's okay too, right? It's all about what you want and what you desire. And so Terry and I are having a lovely conversation about courage and what that means. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Terry Sidford is a sought-after TEDx speaker, author, and certified professional life coach. She has spent over half her life acquiring the knowledge and experience that qualify her to guide others. The acquisition of those experiences is the basis for her book, 100 Hearts, Inspiring Stories from the Women Who Lived Them, a collection of stories of female courage in the face of adversity. You can find Terry working on her next signature talk and sharing her insight with audiences across the nation. So let's get right to the interview. I know that you are going to fall in love with Terry. Welcome, Terry Sidford, to the In Her Voice podcast. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And today we're going to be talking about such a deep and juicy topic, and that is courage. And I feel like this is something that I love to talk about a lot because we need to hear the message a lot. So why don't we start with you telling us, when you speak of courage, what is it that you speak of?
When I speak of courage, it is really going past what you think you can handle, and it's connecting to a place inside of you that gives you that extra strength to go to the unknown, or a place that you fear, or it's on the other side of fear, and it's a heart word. So connecting to yourself and where your heart space is will help you connect to that courage. And a lot of people don't have a word for it. Like, how did you get to the other side? And the unknown. So that's how I describe courage.
Mm-hmm. So it's going past what you think you can handle. I like that. Now tell us why that's important. Why does that
yes.
matter? I think because I think that's a bigger piece of like the story of courage.
Absolutely. I think that the reason I'm out there giving talks on courage, I wrote a book, I've done a TED Talk on courage, is it because I didn't know that I had courage, and I had been through a lot in my own life. And when I recognized, I used to look at my life stories, my adversities, as something that I was ashamed of, and I didn't want anybody to see these life stories or talk about them. And when I was able to look at them now as something, as courageous acts, then I became transparent, and it gave me the strength to go for things that I otherwise wouldn't go for, because I knew I was courageous. So I would take that extra step into the unknown, and that is where your opportunities lie. If you stay in your comfort zone, you do not know what you're capable of achieving. You absolutely do not. You have to go into that unknown place. And what helps you get there, or just take that extra step, is knowing that you can do it. And looking back and seeing, oh, I've gotten through this in life, and I've gotten through that in life, and I've overcome this. And we can't get through this life without having some type of adversity or challenge in our life, or a sense of, man, I was resilient to get past that and come back. So that's why it's important, because that's how you're going to find out what you're capable of achieving and being.
I love that. One of my favorite concepts that I teach into a lot on this podcast and through my work is inspired potential, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's like what we might not even realize we're capable of. It's not about like a thing that we have to do. It's not a checklist, but it's like about what's inside of us if we allow it.
Yes. It's been such a journey for me in seeing how I was teaching. I wrote a book about courage, not even realizing that I was courageous. Once I realized, when I was speaking to a group of women and they asked me about examples for my own courage, I realized that I had not owned that in myself. But once I did, I started to take risks and I started to lean into life. And my life has exploded into in ways I never dreamed of. And it's really about trusting this and letting go. And it's really miraculous what will happen when you understand that concept.
Well, so what was a turning point for you? Because it sounds like you had lived a good part of your life not recognizing, number one, that you had courage, and number two, not recognizing that you needed to push into these uncomfortable zones. So what was a turning point for you? Maybe give us a little picture of what your life was like that caused you to recognize, hey, this is really important and I need to do this.
I grew up in a dysfunctional family, like a lot of people do. And I had a lot of adversity. And I thought that I had handled it. I thought that, oh yeah, I've got this, but I just became really good at hiding it. And then I became a life coach, and I started working with a lot of women, and I noticed how they were demonstrating courage, but never saw it in themselves. And after 15 years of coaching, I decided I needed to understand why. So I created a survey on the subject of courage, and I gathered it from 100 women. And what I found is that these women were incredibly courageous, but never acknowledged it in themselves. So then, after I turned the survey into a book called 100 Hearts, and I started speaking to groups about my book. And it was really the powerful questions they were asking me back that really just absolutely shocked me, that I didn't understand that I was courageous. Even though I had written a book about it, did a survey about it, I coached women about that. So that was a turning point for me to getting real. And I did a TED Talk, and I talked about those stories that I was so embarrassed about. And I finally, for the very first time, could stand up on stage. I'd say this is a huge turning point for me. And I had nothing to hide. I told every single story that I was completely ashamed of my entire life. And for the first time, I was proud of everything I had gone through. And I had nothing to hide. And I was really transparent. And that was a turning point for me.
Why do you think that it's so hard for us to acknowledge our own courage? I mean, you said you see that over and over, and also in yourself. What do you think is keeping women from acknowledging and owning that they're courageous people?
Such a great question. And I asked that myself when I was doing the survey and coaching women. I think that women in general, we have a tendency to just, we're multitaskers. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we just think we're doing what we need to do. And then we just keep on moving on. We don't even have time to stop and think about, wow, that took a lot of guts.
Just keep on moving.
Keep on moving. Don't stop. And I'm amazed. I'm daily. daily I talk to women that I'm like, really? Now, wait, you have like, okay, you have 5 children and then you work full time and you're starting a new company and then you're working full time with a nonprofit. Like, huh? What?
Yeah.
So and they don't say, oh yeah, yeah, I know. And then they're still hard on themselves because they feel like they're not doing enough, or
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Well, and what it reminds me of is, I feel like that there's a word for this, but I don't know the word, but it's when things are, we just do what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we have strengths, for example, we kind of just assume that everybody is really good at that it comes easily for everyone. And so we don't think anything of it, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, I'm a really great listener. That everybody can do that. Everybody hears things the same way that I hear them. And when you start to recognize, hey, you know what? No, like not everyone does it the same way. And not everyone moves through life with courage in the way that we have. And then you can call it something, because I think that's what I hear you saying. It's that it's not even that we're not acknowledging it or owning it. It's that we don't even know what to call courage.
Yes, that's exactly it. I mean, when I talk to people, don't even really understand what courage really means for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was one of the things, and a lot of them say, "Oh, I can't even fill out this survey because I'm not courageous." But I haven't even thought about what that really means.
What do you find women think it means before they begin to understand the depth of courage, of what that is? But what do people think that it is?
Another great question. I think what I've found through this process or this journey is they think it has to be some heroic act. Like they saved a person's life, or it's a big, huge thing that, and they just, if they have an illness and they just get out of bed that morning, they don't see that as courageous.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the other thing about it too that I find really interesting is the juxtaposition of courage and fear.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think there's this idea that, well, if I'm scared, then I'm not courageous. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I'd love to. Another thing that I have realized is courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway, or you just keep going. You get on the other side of it. So that does confuse a lot of people because they think I must be weak. I must be, there's something wrong if I can't. I'm so scared to do this. I'm weak. But no, it's you're willing to even feel it. If you let that fear overcome you and stop you, then that might not be as courageous. But if
Mm-hmm.
you feel that fear, and it can be extremely scary, but somehow you trust in something that you don't even know, and you keep going.
Mm. So, okay, so I have this is such a good conversation. My mind is like reeling away with things that I want to dive into. So let's go into fear. Let's talk about this because it's almost, basically without fear, there is no courage.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to be courageous to do something you're not afraid of.
Right.
For me to jump off a cliff into the water would require great courage because I'm terrified of doing that. But for my son who like gets a kick out of that, apparently he's not afraid to do it at all and he just runs right off. So like I feel that, it's different for everyone. That's the first piece. But what I'm curious to know is in your own experience and as you work with the women that you work with, what are some of the tools that you use, number one, to discern the difference between fear that's keeping us from moving forward and fear that is real fear? Because there is fear for a reason, right?
Yes, absolutely. And another great thing about fear is it alerts you. It alerts you to something.
Hmm.
And so then it's time when you feel fearful to do the inquiry with yourself.
Yes.
So that would be the first tool that I would give them. And it's either that it's the fear of the unknown. So maybe fear's your friend because that means, oh, I'm right up against my comfort zone. Wow, what's on the other side of that comfort zone? Maybe it's a whole new world. Or maybe it's a limiting thought. Maybe it's something that happened to me. I see it, I was bit by a dog when I was a child, and um, I wanted to buy this new puppy, but all of a sudden I'm in total fear and I have no idea why, or something like that. So it's just understanding, is it that you're going past your comfort zone into something new and unknown, and or is it a limiting thought that's keeping you fearful, or something, somebody else told you that you shouldn't do this, or it's maybe a memory from the past or something like that. So then that's the self-inquiry. To just take a moment and say, okay. And then sometimes you don't even know what it is. Sometimes it's hidden so deep you don't know.
So once you do the inquiry and then you get clear, okay, like I'm not going to die if I do this thing.
Right. Yes.
I mean, because if you feel like you're going to die, you should probably listen to that fear. Although I think sometimes even that resistance kind of fear that we should be pushing through. I hate the word should. That if we push through that, we will come to a new realization of what we're capable of. That feels like sometimes fear, like we're going to die. But I think that this self-inquiry will really help identify if we're actually going to die.
Yes. I mean, fear does keep us from doing things that are going to hurt us for sure, and so it does, serve as a very good purpose for those dangers, that we are instinctually aware of. So those, so fear does serve in a lot of different forms in our lives. But also another tool would be, is this dangerous for me? Is that a real danger? And then the other one is looking at the worst case scenario. Like, can I handle it?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you jumped off the cliff, okay, what's the worst case scenario? You land on
have a heart attack.
Yeah. And then you say, I can't handle that. Okay, I'm not doing it.
Okay. That's my choice every time, by the way. Well, so I like that. What's the worst case scenario? Can I handle it? And then we do, after that inquiry piece, we find out, okay, no, we're not going to die. Yes, I can handle the worst case scenario here, but I'm still scared.
Mm-hmm.
So what next?
Just embrace it and observe it. It's okay. Lovingly observe it and know that if you've already decided, okay, this is a fear because it's the unknown, or whatever you've decided that is, and you're like, I'm going to continue to go down that path, then, you just have to lovingly admire it and know that you can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's helpful too to call it what it is, right? So we can call it fear, and also know that the continuing in the accompaniment of fear is courage.
Yes.
Right? So if we name it that, like, I'm not just going to focus on the fear piece of it. I'm also going to focus on me continuing forward even though I feel this way. That's called courage. Yes. And I think just acknowledging that and naming that gives me more courage somehow.
Absolutely. And if you've already done a little bit of work with that and understanding that you are courageous, or you're finding an example in the past, or many examples in the past. And this has happened to me, where I'm just trying to think, recently something happened. And I was thinking, oh, Terry, you've been through much worse than this. I know you can figure this out, and you will get to the other side of this. Mm-hmm. So just that, like, you've handled so much in your life. This is like easy. Yeah. But I was still fearful for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that there are themes of fear? I mean, like certain kinds of fear that pop up more frequently, or is it just sort of, it's all over the place?
Usually someone has a theme.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably to do with, self-worth, where, oh, I can only, handle so much and I can only do so much. So I'm fearful to go out there and try and, explore. And I have this dream, but I don't know if I can do that. Or it's something, deep seated from their past, and or something that's happened in their past where they're afraid to venture out in that direction again. So usually there's definitely themes.
Would you mind sharing your theme?
Abandonment. So that was my theme. I was afraid of abandonment, and so I would do whatever it took to have connections. And I picked wrong people in my life, wrong partners and boyfriends. And I wouldn't see a danger or not a toxic person in my life. I would still befriend them so I could have that connection. And it wasn't until I realized what my theme was here that I didn't need to have those, that the abandonment really wasn't real anymore. That was the past for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that really opened up a lot. And so I knew I could handle it being alone if I had to be alone.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think that's really powerful for people to hear, because that's something I think so many women can identify with, is that feeling of not being loved and left alone. And when we begin to, I think what you said, to look on our past and see how we have survived that and how we have been courageous before, it begins to build a different kind of belief system about who we are.
Yes, yes. And a lot of people are stuck in that old belief and the old story about themselves. And yes, it did happen to you. Yes, it will be a part of your life, but you can change the narrative and you can change the chapters moving forward. And that's where people get stuck. No, I can't. This is just what happened to me, and I can't change that. But you can change the way you look at it and perceive it. Like just even the courage part of it. Like, before I was ashamed, but now I'm proud of myself, and I found my courage in my story.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that so much. So I want to switch gears just a tiny bit and talk about the practice of courage. I'm a big believer in practicing. And I think, especially when it comes to our biggest fears, sometimes it's helpful to practice in an arena that doesn't feel so big.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a professional flutist. I'm never going to go out on stage and play something that I've never played before, because that's crazy. I want to practice it first, right? When the big moment comes, I want to feel prepared for that. And so I like the idea of practicing courage in other areas of our life to sort of help us get better at it. So one example that I will give is an arena for me to practice my fear over and over and over again is at the gym when I'm working out. And this works particularly well when I'm being pushed by a coach, because when I am, running or doing CrossFit or whatever the thing is that I'm doing, I get really scared, like that I'm going to hurt myself, or that I'm going to be in pain, or that I'm going to die, like that I'm going to push too hard. And I recognize that. And I think some people actually can push too hard to injury. I am not one of those kind of people. And I tend to hold back because of my fear. And so when I have the opportunity in the gym to practice that, it's a good arena because I know that I'm safe.
Yes.
I know that I'm protected. I know that the coach is not going to let me go too far. Actually, it's more like he's not going to push me too far. He understands what my potential is and also what my limits are in that moment. And he can sometimes get past that because he's not dealing with my fear.
Yes, yes.
And so what are some other ways we can practice fear. How do we begin to not practice fear, I said it wrong, practice courage?
Mm-hmm. It's so great. This is so good. Having mentors and coaches like you talked about. You can have them for your physical and health, or your life, or your profession, and you can also start to tell somebody that you trust. Here I'm trying something new, and I want to move past my fear. Maybe someone you know that can help support you and love you, a friend, your spouse, somebody like that can help. Just verbally telling someone is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, okay, this is, will you be there when I start to freak out, and can I call you? Or can you come with me? Or what? But just acknowledging that this is what you want to do or want to try, and you might be feeling a little uncomfortable with it, but knowing that someone is there holding you in that space is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be there. Yes.
For sure. One of the things that I read on your website, which I loved, was you spoke of everyday acts of bravery.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think this is a great place to practice also.
Yes. And being brave is different for everyone. Being courageous is different for everyone. Like I said, if you have an illness and getting out of bed, that could be just one avenue or one way of being courageous for that person. But what if being brave is showing up? Really showing up. Like showing up in life like you've never shown up. Is that an act of bravery?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it is. Or just showing someone, being vulnerable, asking questions,
Having fun.
having fun. Yes.
Been thinking coming into this podcast, you talk about giving yourself permission to be courageous. And I remember this one day I was feeling like I think I was going to a party or something, and I'm kind of an introvert. People might not guess that about me, but I feel more comfortable like by myself or in small groups of people. And so I had like a little bit of anxiety, and a lot of times when I go to events, I don't really have fun. Because I feel like I'm just very aware of everything that's going on, and I'm really, conscious of everything that I'm doing, and I don't know, it just feels like a lot. And so on this particular day, I literally wrote myself a permission slip. Like
You
I
did good.
wrote it out. In my journal, I was like, I give myself permission to let go and have fun.
I love this.
And it was as simple as that for me in that moment. And I had to remind myself quite a few times there, like, hey, just let go, Kelly. Just let go. Just have fun. Just do what is fun for you. And don't worry about anybody else. And don't worry about what people are going to think of you. And just have fun. And somehow writing that down really, really helped me. But even for me, so that day, for me, being brave was having fun, which seems ridiculous, but
No, it's not. We don't give ourselves permission to have fun. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
No, and life has to be serious, and that's a big one for a lot of people. And I use an actual permission slip myself to give out to my clients, and when I do speaking or workshops. So it's just having that permission slip that you can write for yourself is so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's easy as that, right?
What have you written yourself a permission slip lately?
Have I?
Yeah.
A mental permission slip. I have.
What was it for?
Well, that's interesting. I've given myself permission to not have a busy schedule when I've been in the middle of really creating a lot of wonderful things and having some downtime. I have had some challenges with aging parents and different things, and I just kind of cleared the deck and knew that everything was going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big one.
That is huge. That took a
Mm-hmm.
lot of courage. I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I mean, and what I think what we're doing right now, and purposely on my part, and I'm sure on yours, is showing examples of how we can acknowledge each other's
Yes.
courageousness and our own. Like, it doesn't have to be a big thing. So you're doing it every day. When you are intentional about it, then it becomes practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the big thing comes, you want to start your own business, or you want to leave your job, or you want to have a child, or whatever it is, you've done the work. So it's not necessarily that it's easy, but it's easier because you know the steps and you have set up this belief system that I am a courageous person and I do scary things.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. In fact, what I found is I am now more comfortable out of my comfort zone. And when
Really?
yes, which is not how I that is not how I live my life most of my life. And now I'm in this place where I like the unknown. That's where the magic is. That's where the juice is. That's where my aliveness lives, my passions live. And I've found that a lot of people feel like they need to control everything. And that's where a lot of fear starts to happen. Well, what if you got up that day and just said, I am going to embrace the unknown today. I'm going to embrace something new or different, and feel like I don't have to control anything today.
Mm. I
And
bet that
that,
makes a lot of people feel really hairy right now. Like, oh, I don't know about that.
oh, I can tell you it does. But a lot of anxiety is really caused from trying to control everything. And I tell a lot of my clients, you just make a list of things you can control, and then the things you can't control, do your best, and then let it go, and really
Mm-hmm.
trust letting it go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful work right there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another tool that you just shared, and that is setting an intention.
Yes.
Set the intention to let go. Set the intention to allow yourself to not be in control. These are all really, really great practices. And you know what I love about this is it's tangible. Like, this is tangible work. These are steps that we can all take every day to be more courageous. That's
Yes.
fun. Like, to
Yes.
me, that's really fun.
Yes, and also I don't want to miss this a really important point about another reason why it's important to be courageous is because it's contagious.
Ooh, talk about that.
When we step up and we show our courage to others, it inspires others to be more courageous too. And isn't that what we all need?
Mm-hmm.
Is to help each other and lift each other up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about you, it's about lifting everyone else around you to be more courageous too,
Mm-hmm.
by example.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think what I love about that is, like, it's not a competition,
Mm-mm.
right? Like,
No.
it's something that we can collectively do. And when we work together and we acknowledge our sameness, that's when things happen. Like, that's when people get things done.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, I love that.
we need each other. We just do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're more similar than we are different. Really.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Terry, I feel like we could talk all day
Me
about
too.
this. It's so good. Clearly, you are a woman who listens deeply to your intuition and to your inner voice. If you are now more comfortable being outside of your comfort zone, I 100% believe that. And so, why don't you share with us what your inner voice is asking of you in your life right now?
My inner voice is telling me that trusting what you're capable of being and achieving will change people's lives, and to never stop growing and going past that place of the unknown, because I am here to make a difference and connect to other people. So that's what my intuition is telling me. Keep going, keep chasing that potential to help others.
So good. I'm so glad you're listening to your inner voice for our sakes. Why don't you let our listeners know where they can connect with you, where they can learn more about what you're doing?
Wonderful. They can go to Terry, Terry, Sidford, SIDFORD.com, and that is my website. And you can connect to me, and I would love to chat with you. And any questions about courage, you can also find my book, 100 Hearts, there. And let's help lift each other up and inspire others to be more courageous together.
Yes. And you're also over on Instagram at Terry_Sidford. We'll link to
Yes.
all of this stuff so you guys can connect. I just went and followed Terry. She has like awesome quotes about courage on her Instagram, super encouraging stuff. So, Terry, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your wisdom, for being brave
Thank you, Kelly.
today, and for coming and speaking your voice and speaking your story and listening to your heart. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it very much. And thank you for this beautiful platform that you're sharing with everyone.
So my question to you is, what does it mean to you to be courageous? Do you have courage inside of you that you are unaware of, or that is lurking? Are you ready to use it? Are you ready to step out? What in your life is calling for you to be courageous? I'd love for you to share your answers with me. If you want to connect with me on Instagram at Kelly J. Covert, I love it there. Or you can always shoot me an email at kelly@kellycovert.com. Let me know what you are going to be courageous in, how you're going to use your courage in these coming weeks. Because when we share that, when you share that with me and when you share that with others, boom, instant accountability. I can't wait to hear from you. Remember, when you're being courageous, you are living the life you were meant to live. It's not always easy. It's scary. It can be hard. And it is so worth it. You are worthy.